Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. Afghan security forces have killed a senior Al-Qaeda leader, Abu Mohsin al-Masri, during an operation in the Ghazni province. Al-Masri was on the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation's most wanted terrorist list. Meanwhile, U.S. envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has confirmed 12 children were killed in a government airstrike in the Thakur province. The United Nations says a treaty to ban nuclear weapons have been ratified. UN Chief Spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said 50 countries signed the treaty and it will come into force in 90 days. Dujarric said the treaty represents the UN's commitment to eliminate all nuclear weapons. In Yemen, the Saudi-led coalition says it has destroyed an explosive-laden drone launched by the Houthis. State media says the drone was aimed at Saudi Arabia's southern region. This comes after Houthis said they targeted the Jizan and Abha airports and the Khamis Mushaith base in Saudi Arabia with drones. The US has recorded its highest daily COVID-19 cases for second day as over 94,000 people have tested positive overnight. France has reported record 45,000 new coronavirus cases and 138 deaths in the past 24 hours. India has registered 578 deaths and over 50,000 infections overnight, while the caseload tops 7.9 million. In Pakistan, 9 people have lost their lives to the virus since yesterday, taking the toll to 6,736. While globally, the coronavirus has claimed over 1.1 million lives and infected 42.5 million people so far. Well, these were the top stories. News in detail coming up after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. We'll start from Afghanistan, where the security forces have killed a senior Al-Qaeda leader, Abu Mohsin al-Masri, in a special operation in the Ghazni province. The National Directorate of Security says al-Masri was the supreme leader of the organization in the Indian subcontinent. Al-Masri was on the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation's most wanted terrorist list. The FBI said he also went by the name of Hussam Abdul Rauf and was an Egyptian national. In a statement, the U.S. National Counter-Terrorism Center called al-Masri's killing a major setback to Al-Qaeda. Meanwhile, U.S. envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has confirmed 12 children were killed in a government airstrike in Thakur province. He said the answer to this tragic situation is an immediate reduction of violence, leading to a ceasefire by all sides. Now, the United Nations says a treaty to ban nuclear weapons has been ratified. UN Chief Spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said 50 countries signed the treaty and it will come into force in 90 days. Dujarric said the treaty represents the UN's commitment to eliminate all nuclear weapons. He said the accord is a tribute to the survivors of nuclear explosions and tests. The 50th signature came on the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the United Nations. The treaty requires all ratifying countries to never develop, test, produce and possess nuclear weapons. Japan says it has decided not to sign the treaty in consideration of its security ties with the United States. Now moving on to Yemen, where the Saudi-led military coalition says it has destroyed another explosive-laden drone launched by the Houthis. Now this comes just a few hours after the coalition said it intercepted a Houthi drone aimed at the kingdom. State media says the drone was destroyed before it hit Saudi Arabia's southern region. Earlier, Houthis said they targeted Saudi Arabia's Jizan and Abha airports and the Khamis Mushaith base with drones. Cross-border attacks by Yemeni rebels have escalated since May, when a truce prompted by the pandemic expired. In late June, missiles reached the Saudi capital Riyadh and the coalition retaliated with airstrikes. Now moving to Cameroon, where gunmen have killed 8 children and wounded dozens others in an attack on a school in the Anglophone southwest region. Kumba City Sub-Prefect Ali said the gunmen came on motorbikes around midday. He said many children were injured after jumping from the second story of the school in an attempt to escape. The official said the attack was conducted by the separatist insurgents who seek to form a breakaway state in the west. Now, last year, officials blamed separatists for kidnapping dozens of school children also. Meanwhile, international human rights groups have urged Bangladeshi authorities to end harassing rights defenders. In a joint statement, the rights group said Bangladeshi intelligence officers have privately visited the activist family members. They said the officers pressured the activists to stop publicly criticizing the government. The groups also slammed Bangladesh for failing to comply with its international obligations to uphold fundamental rights. They said the government is conducting widespread crackdown on journalists and activists. Moving on, Belarus says it's ready to jointly fight external threats with Russia. The Russian state media said Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko spoke to U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in a call. Quoting Belarus state TV, they said Lukashenko told Pompeo that Russia does not interfere in their internal affairs. The U.S. State Department confirmed Pompeo's call. In a statement, it said Pompeo reaffirmed U.S. support for the democratic aspirations of the people of Belarus. They said Pompeo called for the immediate release of U.S. citizens Vitaly Shiklyarov, wrongfully detained by Belarus. Lukashenko is holding on to power despite major protests in recent weeks calling for him to resign. Now, United States President Donald Trump has voted in person in the battleground state of Florida. This marks the first time an incumbent president has voted in person in the swing state. Details in this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump and his rival Joe Biden have hit swing states with just 10 days until election on November 3rd. Trump voted in West Palm Beach, followed by a trio of appearances in North Carolina, Ohio, and Wisconsin. He has joined more than 53 million Americans who cast early ballots ahead of election.
Any complications in there?
No, not much. It was a very secure vote. Much more secure than when you send in a ballot, I can tell you that. Everything was perfect, very strict, right by the rules. When you send in your ballot, could never be like that. Could never be secure like that. They've done a fantastic job over here. Great people inside.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden addressed supporters in Pennsylvania and warned of a dark winter ahead unless the country changed its ways. Biden lambasted Trump's attempts to contain COVID-19, which has claimed lives of 224,000 Americans so far.
We have 10 days left. It may come down to Pennsylvania. And I believe in you. I believe in my state. The choice has never been clearer and the stakes have never been higher. So it's time to stand up. Let's take back our democracy now. We can do this. There's nothing we cannot do. God bless you all.
While Biden leads Trump nationally, opinion polls show a closer race in crucial battleground states which will decide the election.
Well, now the U.S. has recorded its highest daily COVID-19 cases for a second day as over 94,000 people have tested positive overnight. India has registered 578 deaths and over 50,000 infections overnight, while the caseload topped 7.9 million. While globally, the coronavirus has claimed over 1.1 million lives and infected 42.5 million people so far. Details in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic continues to spread, making new daily records and infecting thousands. In Latin America, Chile has identified more than 500,000 cases of COVID-19 since the outbreak began in March. But restaurants and bars have opened with limited capacity as office workers return and some schools also reopen. The U.S. top infectious disease expert warns the resurgence in COVID-19 cases show the pandemic remains a global challenge.
Yesterday, we had 83,000 cases in the United States, which is the most we've ever had on a single day, even at the very worst part of the outbreak. And if you look at the map of the European Union and Italy and France and Spain and the UK, the same thing is happening there. They're having a resurgence of cases. So we have a challenge ahead of us, and I think it reminds us that this is a global problem that we have to pull together globally.
The streets and squares of Athens have become empty after a curfew was imposed to contain the virus. While in Rome, scuffles broke out between police and the people who were trying to break a recently implemented.
Now, the new coronavirus has claimed 9 more lives in Pakistan overnight, raising the death toll to 6,736. The Health Ministry says 832 people tested positive for the disease in the past 24 hours. The ministry added there are over 10,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said out of over 327,000 countrywide cases, more than 310,000 have recovered so far. The ministry said over 143,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province, while Punjab has reported over 102,000 cases, while in the capital city, Islamabad, nearly 19,000 people have been infected so far. In the U.S. state of Colorado, the ongoing wildfire has claimed lives of an elderly couple. This comes as winds continue to fan the second largest blaze in the state's history. Authorities have issued evacuation orders to the residents of the Eastern Estate Park. The order comes as wind gusts are pushing the 191,000-acre fire towards east. Fire Incident Commander said firefighters are battling to contain the blaze aggressively. He expressed hope that a winter storm overnight will aid in containment. Livingston said the fire was probably caused by a human, but the investigation is not complete yet. Now, the chairman of one of the world's biggest conglomerates, Samsung, has passed away in South Korea. Lee Kun-hee, aged 78, was hospitalized for 6 years after a heart attack. In a statement, the company called Chairman Lee a true visionary who transformed Samsung into the world-leading innovator. Lee inherited the chairmanship of the Samsung Group in 1987. Under Lee's leadership, Samsung rose to become the world's biggest technology firm by revenue. Moving on now, Hong Kong travellers boarded a flight to nowhere to enjoy a bird's eye view of the city before flying straight back home. This is the latest travel trend to give people a glimpse of normality during the COVID-19 pandemic. Details in this report.
The new coronavirus pandemic has slammed travel operations worldwide and hit the hospitality sector. With the aviation industry in deep crisis, several carriers have had to come up with creative ways to raise cash. In Hong Kong, an Airbus 320 with 100 passengers on board flew within 200 nautical miles in the southeast direction. Passengers got a top view from the window sightseeing over the South China Sea and some of Hong Kong's iconic city views.
Just like you will never have to fly from Hong Kong to Hong Kong because of COVID-19. That's the only chance you can fly from Hong Kong to Hong Kong.
The flight themed Embrace Hong Kong had sold out in 30 minutes, with tickets costing between $110 and $153. Meanwhile, with few allowed to travel in and out of Singapore due to COVID-19 restrictions, hundreds have flocked to the airport to eat airplane food at a pop-up restaurant on board an A380 jet.
There's more than enough food and, of course, a beautiful beverage selection accompanying that through the experience today. So, looking forward to bringing some Singapore Airlines hospitality back, back to the sky. But we're on the ground, obviously. But the 380 dining experience will be a wonderful, wonderful journey for many, many people today.
The meals range from $40 per person in economy to $480 for a suites class meal. Most of Singapore airline planes have been grounded since the outbreak.
Now, a French company has announced it will build the world's largest insect farm by early 2022. The farm aims to produce 100,000 tons of insect products annually and conserve land use while creating 500 jobs. This report has the details.
Mounting global demand for food is rapidly using up available land. But one French startup says it has the answer by farming insects indoors. Earlier this month, the insect startup raised $224 million from investors to build an insect farm in northern France. Not content with that, the company has set its sights to expand even further.
We are operating today in Burgundy, the largest mealworm vertical farm in the world, and we are going to build something much bigger in Amiens, north of France, the highest vertical farm in the world, up to 40 meters high, the largest insect farm in the world, and even more importantly, the first carbon negative vertical farm in the world.
At the farm in the eastern French town of Dole, the mealworm's larvae are processed into protein-rich flour and oil used in animal feed. Some of the insects are cultivated to become adult beetles who will reproduce.
There are several products. First one is insect frass, which are used as fertilizers in fields and various types of crops. The second product is our protein-rich flour, a part of the larvae that are processed and manufactured. We produce flour rich in protein. We also have insect oil.
With the motive of needing to do more with less, the company's CEO says they're exploring insect products for human consumption.
Well, it's time for a short break. Stay with us. With that, we come to the end of the bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.